Good afternoon, my name is Jim Conlan and welcome to the latest episode of our entertainment show. As you know, in our entertainment show in part 3 each week, we premiere a new TV series or movie that is debuting in Ireland and the UK for the upcoming month. And this week up for discussion is a new comedy show called Colin From Accounts. It's based and originated and designed in Australia, and it's gone international now and global, and it can be seen here in Ireland and the UK. Its complex is about two singleton people who meet in a complex really scenario where one is driving a car and one is walking a dog, and the worlds collide in terms of an accident and an injured dog. It features Harriet Dyer as Ashley, Patrick Brammall, our special guest there today, as Gordon, Genevieve Hegney as Chiara, Emma Harvie as Megan, Michael Logo as Brett, and Annie Maynard as Yvette. Patrick, first of all, delighted to have you with us there today. And how delighted is it for you that yourself and Harriet get to work on a project that is your own design? It's in Australia and started through and through in terms of you made the concept here in Australia and you've been able to bring it to a global audience.
It's a bit of a dream, to be honest, Jim. It's Harry and I started writing it together for a lark a few years ago. It was an idea that we had the sort of the very start of the central conceit of the show, which is two people who meet when a dog gets injured, and it was a sort of a funny, meet cute as that express, that sort of Hollywood story expression goes. And we developed it together, and we never really thought we'd be able to make it, but through various avenues of luck, we did. And we just loved it. We just loved building the world together and creating these situations, making it funny, making it relatable. And it's we've managed to sell it all over the world, and we were stoked to know that the BBC had bought it in the UK. And people seem to be loving it, just loving it, which is cherry on top, really. Just getting to make it was the dream coming true. And the fact that people are loving it is just fantastic. We love it.
And Patrick, in terms of the whole concept of the show, did you do the recruitment in terms of hiring of the audition of the fellow actors as well? Did you approach friends of yours in terms of different roles? How did you line up the characters outside of yourself and Harriet, obviously two main characters, the supporting cast? Did you go through your network of friends here in Australia in terms of who you had in mind, or did you go through an audition process?
It was a bit of both. We, once it became a legitimate production, we had money from various sources, and we had, through our connections in the States, CBS studio put in some money as well. So it was, we hired a casting director, Kirsty McGregor and Stevie Ray at McGregor Casting in Australia, and they've got a huge network. But also, we, as you noted, we've got a huge network of friends and colleagues who we thought we'd love to see in various roles as well. So it was a combination of auditioning people who actually got their roles by merit, and our friends who got their roles by nepotism. But it all worked out well. Everyone was great, I thought.
And Patrick, in terms of the shooting and the location of the screening of Colin From Accounts, did you have particular areas in mind in terms of where you wanted to shoot in terms of Australia? Obviously, it's very familiar to yourself in terms of where you wanted to base it or set it.
Yeah, we are both familiar with the inner west of Sydney in New South Wales, in Australia. And so we had some ideas, and it's set in around Marrickville, which is a suburb, a bit of a, industrial but hip sort of a place, which is where my character owns and runs a microbrewery there. And it felt like the right sort of area. And Harry's character sort of lives around the Camperdown. I mean, none of this means anything to your Irish listeners, but yeah, we did have a very inner west of Sydney is where we wanted to set it. And we both spent time living there, and it's just got a great sort of feel about it. It was perfect for the sort of story we wanted to tell. And I will definitely not say that the city was another character in the story, because it wasn't. It was a location.
And Patrick, in terms of your own character, Gordon now, and Harriet's character, Ashley, in terms of how did they sort of differ? Are they two sort of complex individuals? Are they two, or are they sort of, is it opposite sort of attract, or is it two completely sort of different personalities altogether?
It's two people who wouldn't have met unless they had an accident. So look, I'm not giving too much away because it's in some of the trailers and it's all established in the first 2 minutes of the show. But essentially, I'm on my way to work in my car. Harriet's character Ashley is a medical student. And she's on her way to work for something, and she's walking along the street. I'm driving. We don't know each other at all, and I stop. We sort of meet at a curbside when she's crossing the road, and I stop with the car, and it's a bit of a, hey, sorry, and we have a little bit of a, oh, hello, you go, no, you go, okay, you go. She starts crossing. She's a bit day drunk for other reasons, and she's feeling herself, and she flashes her boob at me. Now, understandably, this is not something that happens every day, so I'm stunned, and I'm watching her walk. I get a beat behind me because I haven't started the car, so I start driving off very quickly. Hit a dog. Damn it. The dog is injured. It's not dead, but it's injured and it needs urgent medical attention. So we both responsible for it. Yeah, someone argue that I'm more responsible than she is, but I would argue that I wouldn't have done it if she hadn't done that. Anyway, we go to the vet, and the question is, do we want to put this dog down, or do we want to pay for the dog and look after it? And it's a lot of money. And so that's a central conceit. And then the two of us have to figure out how that works and how we work together. And we're very different sort of people. And there's an age gap between us. There's 12 years between us, which is true in life. And so, yeah, we sort of, the show is really about embracing the chaos of life, which is sort of what happens in the first 2 minutes. There's a lot of chaos happens, and then we got to sort of figure it out.
And Patrick, how many episodes are there in terms of season 1 of Colin From Accounts? And is it a standalone season?
There's 8 episodes. 8 half-hour episodes, and no, we're working on ideas for a second season. There hasn't been an official commission of it yet, but the response has been so fantastic that I'm quietly optimistic that there might be a second season. But yeah, like I say, there's nothing confirmed.
And have you started looking at developing the backstories of the fellow characters like Genevieve's character and Emma's character, and maybe finding an arch maybe in terms of delving more into those backstories? Or for the first 8 episodes, is it mainly the relationship between yourself and Harriet?
Yeah, the first 8 episodes. Have you seen any, Jim?
I've just seen the trailer, Patrick.
Yeah, right. So the central story of the show is about these 2 characters, and so the supporting characters, you get bits and pieces of them, you know, and you get enough of their lives to be satisfying, really. But the central story is the thing we follow, the A story, and the supporting cast is, and those character stories are great, and they support really well what's going on in terms of comedy, in terms of real life stuff that you recognize as an audience. And if we were to go ahead for a second season, you know, we've got these characters now and they're all living. And so I think there's plenty of places we want to see them go and develop those stories more. Yeah.
And in terms of the sort of areas, in terms of what we see in terms of themes, I know it's a comedy show, but in terms of arcs and storylines, are they concurrent episodes? Do they sort of run into the next, or are they standalone? Each episode is a standalone sort of with a beginning, a middle, and an end to it?
There is an arc to the season, so it makes sense. It works best if you watch them in order. Having said that, there are episodes you can just enjoy them. You sit down and watch an episode and sort of loosely pick up what's going on. But audiences now are pretty smart, you know. So it's not primitive stories. It's certainly not a soap where it just resets every time, or, you know, the classic thing, an episodic thing where they just completely stand alone. It's not a sitcom in that sense. There is an overarching story for sure.
And in terms of the global reaction, you said in terms of it has gone global. In terms of back home in Australia, what has been the reaction here and there in terms of its release?
Great. We've been it's easily, I mean, I've been working as an actor and less so as a writer. I mean, I've worked as an actor for 20 years in Australia, and a little bit in the States, and Harry for a bit less time because he's younger than me. But this is easily the most response we've ever got on this, any sort of work we've done. It's been overwhelmingly positive, which has been just so great to have that. You know, people are loving it. Not to blow our own horns, but why not? Why not?
And I suppose, Patrick, before we came on air, you mentioned that there might be a bit of Irishness in you, and you've mentioned as well that you've been to Ireland once or twice.
I've been to Ireland just the once, regrettably. I don't regret being there. I regret not being there more. I was just in Dublin for a minute a couple of years ago, and yeah, I should have been there more than I have, because I've got. I mean, my last name is Brammall, which is an English name, but through my maternal links, I've got, I think my mum's mum was a Martin, my dad's mum was an O'Brien. We've got plenty. I'm an Australian, so there's going to be Irish in here. You know, it's essentially a cup of tea with an Irish and English breakfast. You know, competing for the dominant taste.
And Patrick, as an actor, for you, you mentioned you in terms of spending an awful lot of time in the United States and Australia. Is there a certain sense of reward when you can come back home and you can shoot a project at home here in Australia, and for that to take off and go global? Is that sort of a sense of, dare I say, country pride, or a sense of you know, where I belong to, I can do something in my own backyard and it can take off and go global, a concept, an idea that it doesn't need to be produced in LA or the big leading lights of Hollywood to make it?
Absolutely. It really is a dream. I mean, we had this idea, you know, it's a romantic comedy. It's boy meets girl, this particular situation, particular to our idea, but it's a romantic comedy. It's not a new idea, you know. And so when we were trying to develop it, a lot of people were saying, look, you both live in LA for the moment, just make it here and in LA. And so, but we didn't want to, because there's something about the Australian vernacular, the place we grew up, the voices here, the characters here, and the more specific we could be about the characters and the situations, the more universal the appeal, I think. I think we're living in an age now with streaming, the viewing habits, and like I said before, audiences have become so sophisticated now that we can handle stories from other countries. You know, I mean, I grew up watching a lot of American stuff and a lot of English stuff. I'm used to not understanding every single reference, you know, but if it's good, it's good. If the drama is good or the comedy is good, it doesn't really matter where it's from. And I think audiences and the studios and corporations behind the streamers and stuff have cottoned onto that as well. So it's hugely satisfying to be able to make something quintessentially Australian and have it travel. You know, that's a great thing. And I think, ironically, we maybe wouldn't have got the backing that we had to make it if we didn't have a little bit of Hollywood dust on us, you know, because I think the people who backed us in Australia were like, oh, they're in America, they're doing things over there, but yeah, I've been working there, my wife's been working there, and it was a bit, oh, if we can get them back here, that'd be great. You know, it's nothing, it's a false economy, it's pretend currency, but it was enough to get you know, people to pay us some attention to make the show. So to be able to come back here, tell the sort of story that we love, that we find funny, and then for it to travel everywhere, it's the best. It's the best.
And I suppose,
by the way, when I say my wife works, I'm talking about Harriet. We're married in real life.
Yeah, and I just want to touch on that point. Is there some sort of similarities in terms of real life marriage that between yourself and Harriet that we get to see between Ashley and Gordon in terms of that? Is there some conversations that come up that would actually come up in the Brammall house?
Look, not too far from, look, it's a fiction. It is a fiction, but I've had friends say to me, you know, it's a bit like just hanging out with you guys. I mean, sure, we do use our voices. We use the same bodies and faces. And we even pull from our own lives. And if there's anything funny, for instance, there's an episode where we really exploit our age gap. There's 12 years between us, like I said before. And so episode 7, there's this, it's a great dynamic where I'm trying to throw a party for her birthday to try and impress her and all her younger friends. And I become a very, very tense host, and she becomes very kind of embarrassed by me. And there's lots of little things that we've pulled from our life. If it's like, nothing's safe, nothing is sacred in our life. If something's funny, use it. You know what I mean? So, so yes and no is the unhelpful answer to your question. You'll get a bit of what we're like in life, but also, yeah, we're not actually Ashley and Gordon.
And Patrick, Brammall, in terms of finally from me to you, why should all our audience tune in on the BBC now here next week to watch Colin From Accounts, and what's in store for them?
Well, listen, this is my promise to the audience. Watch it for 3 minutes. If you haven't had a laugh, don't worry about it. Forget it. In fact, unsubscribe to the BBC. I'm happy to make that promise because it doesn't affect me at all financially. No, we've had a great response because it's funny. It is genuinely funny, which is something that I like to see in a comedy. And the other thing is, it feels truthful. I think there's a lot of comedy, not just comedies, dramas, movies, TV, everything. Look, it's hard to make this stuff. I'm not dumping on anything that gets made. But a lot of the time, the majority of the time, I'll be watching something and I'll be able to follow the story and go, oh yeah, I get it. But I'm not actually pulled into the story, you know, because it doesn't resonate with me. There's oftentimes you'll see characters do things and it won't feel like authentic human behavior. It won't feel like something that you go, yes, absolutely, I would do that too. Or I know people who act that way. And Harry and I were really rigorous in only, you know, taking out all the bullshit, if you don't mind my French. Just taking out the stuff that doesn't sound, that sounds like dialogue, that sounds like a line in a TV show. We tried to keep it as real and as you know, sort of messy as we could, because that's what the show's about. The show's about chaos. And I think that's one of its great strengths. So yeah, look, watch the first episode, watch a bit of the first episode, and you'll know if it's for you or not. Hopefully it will be.
On that note, Patrick Brammall from me, Jim Conlan from Ireland to Australia there today. Good morning to you in Australia. It's a good evening from you in Australia here to us here in Ireland. But for a moment, from me, Jim Conlan, to you, Patrick Brammall, all the best with Colin From Accounts. No doubt it's going to be a massive success for you and Harriet. And please, God, hopefully we can speak to you sometime in the near future. But for the moment, Patrick Brammall, stay safe, take care, and God bless.
Thanks, Jim. You too, man. I really appreciate it.